Hello, everybody, and welcome to Classic Country Backstories. I'm Colleen Gallagher. Today, we're going to talk about a superstar. He was a singer, an entertainer, and an actor, and he came from my neck of the woods, St. Francis County, Missouri. His name is Ferlin Husky. I sat down with Terry Husky, son of Ferlin Husky, recently. Stay tuned to find out what Terry had to say about his father. Nashville, Tennessee, country music capital of the world, home of the Grand Ole Opry, where singers and dreamers come seeking stardom. Join me as we learn about the lives and careers of those who built this town on Classic Country Backstories. Born Ferlin Eugene Husky, December 3rd, 1925, in Cantwell, Missouri. Parents were Lewis and Fern Husky. Ferlin grew up on a farm where his father was a sharecropper. He attended school in Irondale, Missouri, and attended the First Baptist Church in Leadwood. He lived in Flat River, Missouri for 6 months before beginning his musical career. Husky's name was supposed to be Ferland, Ferland, named after a friend of his father's, but the name was misspelled Ferlin on his birth certificate, and it stuck. Ferlin's uncle taught him to play guitar before he was 10 years old. He grew up listening to KXOK radio in St. Louis, Missouri, and the smooth sounds of Red Foley and Bing Crosby. Ferlin met a veteran of the Merchant Marines and enlisted shortly after Pearl Harbor. On D-Day, he was a volunteer gunner on a troop ship off the beach of Cherbourg, France. Following the war, Husky came back to St. Louis, working as a truck driver and a steel mill worker while singing in the honky-tonks at night before moving to California in the late 1940s. Former Gene Autry sidekick, Smiley Burnett, took Ferlin on tour and talked him into using the name Terry Preston. After the tour, Ferlin returned to California and began working at the nightclubs with Ole Rasmussen and Smokey Rogers and other prominent members of the club circuit. Ferlin made several appearances on Cliffy Stone's Hometown Jamboree radio and TV show, singing as well as doing comedy and impersonations. Next, Husky became a disc jockey for KBIS Radio out of Bakersfield, California. It was here where he developed his character, Simon Crumb, based on popular radio characters Lum and Abner, and Simon Crump, a friend and neighbor from Ferlin's childhood. By 1950, Ferlin was recording for Four Star Records, as well as writing for Four Star Music. With help from his friend Cliffy Stone, a producer for Capitol Records, Husky was signed with Capitol in 1953 using the name Terry Preston until producer Ken Nelson talked him into recording under his real name. Husky's first hit with Capitol Records was A Dear John Letter, which featured Gene Shepard, a young new artist who sang the choruses, punctuating Husky's recitation of a soldier whose sweetheart decided to marry his brother. In the throes of the Korean War, the recording entered the Billboard chart in July of 1953 and shot to number 1. The song also crossed over to the pop chart and climbed to number 16. Capitalizing on their success, the duo toured after Husky was officially named guardian of Gene, who was not yet 21. Later, in 1953, Husky and Shepard scored a number 4 hit with their follow-up, Forgive Me, John. Before Elvis Presley was famous, he was an opening act for Ferlin on a few occasions. Orlo and Mavis Thompson, a brother and sister backup duo, sang and traveled with Ferlin in the 1950s and 60s. Mavis was Ferlin's wife for more than 30 years. 1955 brought 3 solo top 10 hits for Ferlin Husky. I Feel Better All Over Than Anywheres Else, Little Tom, and 'Cause You're So Sweet, which was his first hit as Simon Crumb. In 1956, Ferlin re-recorded a song he had once recorded under the name Terry Preston. The song was a Smokey Rogers song named Gone. This song was one of the early representations of the Nashville sound, with echo, sparse instrumental support, and the Jordanaires and Millie Kirkham on background vocals. The song rose to number 1 on the country charts and number 4 on the pop charts. The song remained on the top of the country charts for 10 weeks, while staying on the charts for 27. Husky was a performer on Springfield, Missouri's Ozark Jubilee in 1955, and then moved on to the Grand Ole Opry. Gone propelled Ferlin Husky to network television appearances on Arthur Godfrey's Talent Scouts, including spots as guest host on Kraft Television Theater and The Ed Sullivan Show. He eventually went on to talk shows hosted by Steve Allen, Johnny Carson, and Merv Griffin. Ferlin had to give up his Grand Ole Opry spot, but television exposure introduced him to millions of viewers. In 1960, Ferlin Husky recorded Wings of a Dove, written by Bob Ferguson. The song was at the top of the country charts for 10 weeks, climbing to number 12 on the pop charts. This became Husky's biggest hit. Even though the number 1 chart position eluded him moving forward, Ferlin charted 36 more songs between 1961 and 1972. His success as a recording artist led him to featured roles in a number of movies, including Mr. Rock and Roll in 1957, Country Music Holiday in 1958, 40 Acre Feud in 1965, Las Vegas Hillbillies in 1966, Hillbillies in a Haunted House in 1967, and Swamp Girl in 1971. Of all his endeavors, Ferlin Husky had his most success as a live performer. He toured both in the United States and abroad. Merle Haggard once said, "There are a lot of years when nobody in the business could follow Ferlin Husky. He was the biggest live act of the day, a great entertainer." In 1969, he recorded a song about his hometown area called Flat River Mo. It made it to the number 33 position on the Billboard Country charts. In late 1972, after 20 years with Capitol Records, he left the label and signed with ABC Records, where he scored several more top 40 hits into 1975, including Rosie Cries a Lot in 1973. In 1977, Husky retired temporarily after heart surgery. Then he returned to the stage, touring and making appearances on the Grand Ole Opry. He also appeared on Larry Black's Country Family Reunion on RFD TV. Ferlin was one of the first country entertainers to receive a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame. Ferlin was inducted into the Country Music Hall of Fame on October 23, 2010. Husky's last performance was on January 16, 2011, where he performed Wings of a Dove during a ceremony in his honor at the West St. Francis County High School in Leadwood, Missouri. Ferlin died on March 17, 2011, from congestive heart failure in Westmoreland, Tennessee. He was 85 years old. Funeral services were held at the First Baptist Church in Hendersonville, Tennessee, with songwriter and Reverend Dallas Frazier officiating. Ferlin Husky was buried at the Hendersonville Memorial Gardens at the Sermon on the Mount section in Hendersonville, Tennessee, next to his son, Danny Lewis Husky. In September 2011, a portion of Missouri Highway 8 in Leadwood, Missouri, was renamed the Ferlin Husky Memorial Highway in his honor. Family and longtime friend Leona Williams was on hand for the unveiling of the highway sign. Terry Husky, son of Ferlin Husky, I'm so glad to have you with us today.
I'm so glad to be here.
Well,
Absolutely.
thank you for taking a few minutes to talk to
you got
me.
It. Absolutely.
Your dad had such an incredible career. It's almost hard to know where to start with him.
Yeah.
Ferlin began to sing when he was pretty young, didn't he?
Yep, very young.
And he moved to California in the late 1940s.
Yeah, sure did. Yeah, right after it was after the war, because he was in the Merchant Marines during World War II. He was actually within a lot of like the D-Day and all that stuff.
Oh wow!
You know, it's funny because I think that's some of the most those stories were the ones that he was the most proud to tell, that he was, you know, involved in that.
Isn't that something?
Yeah.
So now, when did he move to Nashville?
I want to say he moved to Nashville in 50, maybe 55, between 55 and 50, because Gone came out in 57. That went number one in 57. And I'm pretty sure he was living in Nashville a couple of years before that. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
So now, where were you born?
I was born in Nashville.
You were born in Nashville.
Grew up in Hendersonville.
Okay. What was Ferlin like when he wasn't Ferlin Husky on stage? What was he like at home?
Well, that's the thing. He was always Ferlin Husky. What you see on stage is that is his true to form personality. He was the greatest dad ever. But he was always, my sisters and I, we joke about it a lot. We laugh because we were like, Dad was always on, just because he had us laughing consistently.
Mm-hmm.
And very spiritual, very and loved all of his kids, because he was married 4 times, and there's 10 of us all together.
Wow.
But one thing that he was very adamant about was that family is family. There is no half brothers or half sisters within this family, so all of us are still very close.
He was such a showman, and he
Yeah.
worked so hard to
Mhm.
entertain.
Mhm.
I saw him several times,
Yes.
and
yes.
that's why I asked the question of what he was like at home, because he was very much on. He was very, very present.
Yeah, see, the thing with Dad, that nothing was ever really rehearsed. When he would perform, it was just natural. He just loved to be out there in front of everybody, making them laugh, singing, because he did the same thing when he was in the military. That's how he really figured out he had a knack for like entertaining multiple people, because he would do that on the ship in front of the troops, So, making, doing the imitations of different guys that he was in the military with. He was great at mimicking people, and so he would do that kind of stuff. And then, at home, he was pretty much the same way, just always laughing. He also loved to cook. So we all ate very well. Like we still have great recipes that Daddy, that we got from him, and so
You still use today.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Some of my favorite stories about my dad was Dad was a big sports fan. He was huge because he boxed when he was in the military, and so he was a major fight fan. So some of my favorite times with him were when in the early days when they would show the boxing matches before ESPN and all that stuff. He would literally come and get me and say, "You're watching this fight with me. You're watching," and I was like 7, 8 years old. He said, and he would and when we were watching these things, he would be up in his chair just like, "Now watch this, just showing how." And it was like kind of a different side of him that I hadn't seen, that a lot of people haven't seen. But he was very, but even then he was funny. He would just laugh. He would just, to do anything with him was just, you were gonna have a good time. It didn't matter if you were watching. You could be watching a sad movie and you could be watching it with him and still love it. He was that good.
My goal with this channel is to educate everyone about the lives and careers of legendary performers like your dad.
Yeah.
And he's one of the people that helped turn Nashville into the country music.
Exactly.
capital.
And what's funny is that we were talking earlier about how it was always kind of difficult for people to put him in a place of whether it be country, pop, comedy, different things, because he was so versatile. He could act. I mean, he's got a star on the Walk of Fame in Hollywood also.
Yes, I did see that. That is awesome.
Yeah, but he was just such a versatile entertainer. He just wanted to be a crowd pleaser. That was him. Yeah.
Terry, thank you so much for taking
absolutely.
the time
You
to talk to
yeah.
us today. We appreciate you so much.
Thank you. I appreciate you guys. Thank you
Terry
so much.
Husky.
You bet. Thank you.
Ferlin sold over 20 million records and made 18 movies in his lifetime. He was more than just a singer. He was an all-around entertainer with a career that lasted more than 60 years. Make it a point to go find some of Ferlin's work, be it through many recordings or his movies on the big screen. He was one of the finest entertainers of all time. Thank you again for watching this episode of Classic Country Backstories. If you like what you saw, hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and hit the bell button for notifications of upcoming episodes. Until next time, God bless, take care, and I'll see you later.